Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am the guy who picked Bill Algeo to defeat Du Ho Choi. He's going to be too durable. He's going to be in Choi's face. And he's going to break him. Mark my words. Okay, I'll get to that fight in a few minutes, but let's start at the top with UFC on ESPN 60's main event. Jandiroba defeated Amanda Lemos by round 2 armbar. This was an excellent performance from Jandiroba. Really that next level type of performance where her next fight is going to be probably a main event fight night. But of course, if something should happen, she's in striking distance of a title. She can fill in for a title fight and nobody would bat an eye. And that wasn't some eye joke or whatever. Because this was a clean submission victory over a recent title challenger. She looked phenomenal here, and I love the finish, switching to the armbar from the rear naked choke. Shades of Ruzumar Palhares versus Ivan Salivary at UFC 84. Ill will. But this was just a great move. I don't know if she would have forced a rear naked choke stoppage there in the final 20 seconds. I think a lot of fighters would go, fuck it, I can take a nap. But they're not going to go, fuck it, I'll let my arm snap. And that's what made it a great move. And she forced the stoppage with the armbar. Shades of Stephan Bonner versus Mike Swick on The Ultimate Fighter. Fucking seconds left. But this was the first definitive loss for Amanda Lemos, or finish loss on the ground. Her other finish loss was standing up, really, to Jessica Andrade. And that was a special Jessica Andrade type of submission. But Jandiroba made this a grappling bout, generally kept herself safe. She ate a few shots, but only a few. And just clung to Amanda Lemos and went through her on the ground. And where Weili Zhang had a lot of success there as well. But Jandiroba's jiu-jitsu was the difference here. And that's what gave her the finishing touch, forcing the armbar. This was excellent, a great test for her that, I really thought was a close battle. I thought either fighter could win and look dominant, but this was still a great test of two well-rounded fighters. Well, halfway well-rounded. And Jandiroba was the fighter that was able to impose herself. She clung to Amanda Lemos, took her back. Amanda Lemos might have made some tactical mistakes early, but, at some point you got to commit to the guillotine, I guess. But regardless, it was a grappling match. That's how I'll remember this fight, a grappling fight, and Jandiroba always should have won that fight, and she did. I thought she had a good chance of getting a submission, but it wasn't something I was sure of because, again, Amanda Lemos was only ever finished once, and it was with Chad Mendes squeezing her against the cage. So this was excellent, and again, puts Virna in striking distance of a title. And for Amanda Lemos, she's still not far off. She only lost her title fight very recently, but this was a pivotal loss where now she's got to climb back. I don't think she's anywhere close to a title fight, but I'm sure she's still not done climbing. So she'll be back. Co-main event, Steve Garcia defeated Seungwoo Choi. I love Steve Garcia. Steve Garcia is just such a killer. And here he forced a brawl and got it done in 90 seconds. He looked incredible. And for Seungwoo Choi, I don't want to diminish Steve Garcia's victory, but Seungwoo Choi's chin is a problem. It was a problem before this fight, and now it's a major hole in his ship. And that's just moving forward in MMA, because I don't know if he's going to be in the UFC. He might be gone here, but regardless, with the way the knockouts and knockdowns have been piling up in the last few fights of his, I don't know. I think he's done for at the UFC level. But regardless, Steve Garcia, if there's any sort of fragility at all, Steve Garcia will finish you because he is exceptionally dangerous. And that's pretty much the story of this fight. He was always going to catch him, even though I bet a good amount on Seungwoo Choi winning by decision. But Seungwoo Choi is just not a well-rounded fighter, not really able to impose himself on the ground. Like I said, a lot of it, he's gotten a few takedowns, but as a fighter, he's more of a stand-up guy. A lot of times he ends up on top of guys, and it's with leg kicks and collisions and whatever. And Steve Garcia made this a favorable fight for him by turning it into a brawl very quickly. And great win for him. Fourth consecutive knockout or TKO, whatever. And for him now, he called out Dan Ige. I don't know if he's going to get that because Dan Ige's stock is pretty damn high right now. But he's got big things coming. And the UFC must at the very least recognize that he makes for excellent television, Steve Garcia. So I actually love that he got promoted to the co-main event with the illness of Junyoung Park. So yeah, he got a little extra shine, the higher profile, and it delivered in a big way. Kurt Holobaugh beat Kenan Khrushchevsky. This was a good fight, really good fight. I thought Kurt Holobaugh was a step ahead throughout the whole fight, pretty much. It was close early on, but Kurt, I thought, won every round. And that really surprised me. Kenan Khrushchevsky's never been beaten any other way by knockout, only 2 losses, though, and they're both by knockout. And Kurt was clipping him, and Kurt's a dangerous guy. But Kenan was able to take what was coming from Kurt, just not able to impose himself so much. Like I said, a little bit early, but this was really Kurt Holobaugh being the better, more well-rounded fighter, and with the better overall gas tank and the rest of it. Clean victory for Kurt Holobaugh. He's a guy who's had multiple stints. This is his third stint in the UFC. And despite the recent setback to Trey Ogden, he's still got, in general, a lot of momentum. Went through the Ultimate Fighter. He's got a lot of momentum on his side, and I love seeing it. The guy's older, 38 or whatever he is, but he's still kicking ass, and he's having his best years right now. So awesome for him, and he's going to be moving on. For Kenan Khrushchevsky, I don't know. I don't know the contract situation. I think he might have taken the fight against Elvis Brenner on short notice, so I'm sure that helps. And here he didn't get finished, so maybe he'll get another shot. Bruno Silva is going to get another shot. Might get a fucking title shot eventually. This was an excellent win. A comeback, in my opinion, over Cody Durden. Not in my opinion. In reality, I thought Cody was winning. Cody looked really good in this fight, but just got clipped. He's a guy who's been clipped before, but this was a knockout loss among submission losses mostly. Bruno Silva showing he's always dangerous and deep into the fight. I consider 3 minutes into the second round pretty deep. And in a fight that was not going his way, and I thought he was sure to lose, especially after the way round one looked. I was really impressed that he turned it around, clipped him, and stormed him, and got him out of there. Turned the fight around on a dime. Bruno Silva, speaking of momentum, he's got a lot of momentum now himself. I don't know what his win streak is, but he's got a winning streak. And that finish over Tyson Nam, even though it feels like it was fucking 2 years ago, and now this one, he's got it going on. I hope he returns and fights again soon. He's got to get more active, in my opinion. I don't know if he's had issues outside the cage, injuries or whatever, but yeah, this brings his momentum even higher. And Cody Durden is an excellent fighter. He's already gotten enough great wins in the UFC, or good wins anyway, where I consider him even an above average UFC fighter. But Bruno Silva, yeah, this was a great win. It'll get better with age, and he's got all the momentum on his side right now. And for Cody, again, like I just said, he's an excellent fighter. I'm sure he's going to be beating a lot of guys in the future, but this is another strike against his chin. He was clipped here, clipped in the Makayev fight. But in general, I still think he's a relatively healthy guy, and I'm not willing to write him off in any way. Chin, submission defense, whatever. I think he's still a problem and a great UFC fighter. Duo Choi beat Bill Algeo. Submission, a TKO, submission to punch. There was a time when that was just a submission. Josh Barnett lost by submission to Mirko Krokop and whatever. But twice, actually. But Duo Choi beat him with a punch. I don't know what happened with it, if it hit the eye or whatever. It was a weird reaction from Bill Algeo. But Bill Algeo was very much in that fight. And while I'm sure he was hurting, I'm sure both guys were hurting. You know, even winners get their asses kicked. But that one punch really turned the fight around. I don't think it was just him giving up. I think one punch forced him to give up, and maybe it just landed in the wrong spot. But either way, it's a strike against his durability. It's not quite like Andre Petrosky getting knocked out by Jacob Malkoun, but this definitely was a new wrinkle. He's got 2 TKO losses now in his last 2 fights. A guy who's historically been very durable. So things could be turning for Bill Algeo, but for Duho Choi, this was a close fight, and for him to take over and take it with a TKO in round 2, regardless of what the fuck happened there, I thought it was really impressive for Duho Choi. He's had that long layoff with his military service, but since he's been back, in my opinion, he's 2-0. Got that good draw against Kyle Nelson, and now here he beat Bill Algeo with a clean TKO victory, or half clean, whatever the fuck happened. So Duo Choi's got a lot of momentum. He's back, and yeah, I'm happy about it. The Korean Superman. Hyder Emil beat Jung Young Lee. I actually think that was Vitor Belfort who beat Jung Young Lee. I have to rewatch it though. But either way, he threw about 1,000 punches in a minute, looked phenomenal, and steamrolled Jung Young Lee in a way nobody else has. It's not like like a Jung Young Lee is so proven. He's only got one loss, but he hasn't fought the best competition, obviously. And here, Hyder Emil, who I still don't have the firmest grasp on him and where he belongs, but I know he belongs in the UFC. That's for sure. And he steamrolled Jung Young Lee and got a highlight for his highlight reel there, which, the guy's a very exciting fighter, but he's got to get going and prove himself. He's in his mid-30s and, just getting going in the UFC. But so far, he's been pretty damn active since he got in. 2 fights pretty quickly. And here, assuming he didn't break any hands, which is certainly possible, I think we'll see him again pretty quickly. Excellent fight for Hyder Emil. He got 2 TKO victories now in the UFC, but this one again looked like some Vitor Belfort highlight. It was just phenomenal. That hand speed and that even I don't want to say like cardio, but to throw that many strikes that quickly. I know he was in Terminator mode, but it was very impressive. And he never let up. I think Jung Young Lee could have regained his composure in there multiple times, but he never let up and just kept clipping him and overwhelmed him, forcing the stoppage. Great win, and for Jung Young Lee, very tough loss. This is certainly a new wrinkle to his profile. And yeah, he's a guy that I've seen staggered once, but knocked out now once. And this was a steamrolling. So he's got to recover. I'm sure he'll be back, but yeah, new wrinkle. Cody Gibson beat Brian Kelleher by arm triangle choke in round 1. Not so much of a new wrinkle here for either fighter. Great win, though, for Cody Gibson. He did survive a guillotine from Brian Kelleher. But Kelleher, I don't want to make the story all about him. And I don't want to make it like he's just some dinosaur, because I'm aware he's only a year older than Cody Gibson. But Kelleher is probably done in the UFC. And altogether, yeah, he's done at the UFC level. He's done being a viable fighter, a force in the UFC. So, yeah, that sucked. He was steamrolled again, another round 1 submission loss. But, yeah, got to give credit to Cody Gibson. Cody Gibson's looked really good, aside from really he was kind of neutralized by Miles Johns. But that excellent fight against Brad Katona, despite him losing the decision, it was a victory in a lot of ways. And here, there's no a lot of ways about it. It was just one way, and he steamrolled Brian Kelleher. Definitive victory. And even if your opponent has fallen off and he's got a weak chin and whatever else, getting anything done in round 1 is very impressive. So great win for Cody. Miranda Maverick beat Deani Barbosa by decision. This was a good performance from Miranda Maverick. I was really impressed that she was able to neutralized Deani Barbosa early. I thought Deani would be putting her foot on the gas and making a little more happen early, but Maverick was just too strong for her. She may not have had the better refined jiu-jitsu or even striking, but she was too much for her physically and was able to stuff her guard and neutralize her on the bottom. Deani Barbosa didn't fade and allow herself to be finished or anything, but this still wasn't a great performance from her. Even though she stepped up on short notice and all the rest of it, Miranda Maverick totally neutralized her. And that's how I envision the fight going if she was on a full camp, Deani. So, tough way to lose. Your first loss, taking the fight on short notice, but a definitive loss. And for Miranda Maverick, this is another win that you may not remember, but I'm sure she'll remember it, and it keeps her afloat in the UFC. She's had some ups and downs, but she's really fucking tough. At the very least, she's gonna force you to take her the distance, and at the very most, she can just be way too much for you physically, and that's what this was here. Great win for her. Trey Ogden beat Louis Rajabov by decision. I keep underestimating Trey Ogden. I keep underestimating him. I think he is a very smart fighter. He's got a very high fight IQ, and I think he's a really good, well-rounded guy. Good grappler, and on the feet, he may not be the best striker out there, but he's competent on the feet. And here, I think he was really outgunned there on the feet, so it could have gone the other way. But all of his other skills were there for him. Hit some well-timed takedowns and generally controlled Loic, whatever. Taking the back, he had excellent control, locking up the body triangle, and the guy is again a high IQ fighter. He was able to secure the victory over Louis Rajabov with control. Fight started getting away from him a little bit in the end there, and it was a great effort from Rajabov, but he still retained control, Trey Ogden, and never let the fight really completely get away from him. Great win. And for Louis Rajabov, another loss in which he wasn't finished. He's a very, very durable guy, but yeah, he's maybe not the biggest force at the UFC level. And Luana Carolina beat Lucia Pudilova. I thought this was a definitive victory for Luana Carolina, but I think it was closer than the commentators thought it was. I bet on Luana, and I was a little worried, but I still thought she won. Definitely outlanded Lucia. And I never pay attention so much to numbers. Sometimes they do tell the story of the fight, but a lot of times they don't. But I did think Luana was the better fighter, stronger on the inside and on the outside, better with, the jousting, her oblique kicks and whatever. Another fight that was destined to go the distance, as a lot of these fights did, and this one did. But a good win for Luana Carolina. Lucia Pudilova, now I think she's got double-digit losses now. This was her 10th loss. But she's a very tough fighter. Tough to get out of there, and a good matchup for a lot of girls that are considered way better than her. So good win for Luana. And Thomas Peterson beat Muhammad Usman. This was good to see. Thomas Peterson winning a competitive fight and winning by decision. I thought he looked really good here. Really good. His takedowns were there for him a little bit here and there against Muhammad Usman, but he was forced to fight, generally a fight that I'm assuming is not plan A for him. And he looked really good. He was in Muhammad Usman's face. Usman had reach and I think a sharper jab, but he was not able to win the fight with the jab. Thomas Peterson figured it out pretty quickly and was beating him up throughout the whole fight. And he looked good every which way. Cardio, and that's not just, not falling apart in round 3, but also hitting some takedowns down the stretch, deep into round 2 and whatever. He looked like a good UFC heavyweight. I'm still not ready to say that he's even middle of the pack yet. He's got to work his way up. But Muhammad Usman's a guy who's already knocked off some of those lower level heavyweights there, and Thomas Peterson just stepped over him. So great way to win here, especially coming off that disappointing loss in his debut. And for Muhammad Usman, he's a neutralizing fighter. I think he's pretty tough. He was hurt a few times here. But, yeah, he's just a guy that, he's too slow paced sometimes. He might be better off putting his foot on the gas and trying to really go for it. I know he's a guy who's probably worried about his cardio, but these forgettable fights in the UFC and losing close decisions and letting fights slip away from you, I don't know. I don't know if he's long for the UFC. So maybe he's got to take his next opportunity if he's given one and just go total fucking Melvin Manhoof. All right. That about wraps it up. Not a great night for MMA al dente, but not a bad night either. I think my picks were pretty much a fucking disappointment. I never mentioned my picks, but after last week when I did well, I figured I'd mention that I didn't do well here. Largely a fucking disaster. But the bets were all over the place, and it was so night. In the end, Virna Jandiroba came through in a big way. And yeah, that's the story of the night. We got a new contender out of Virna Jandiroba, and for Amanda Lemos, she's still not far off. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit. Check out my other videos.